Hey guys, Jeff here and welcome back to Pinoy Fitness. In this episode, what we want to talk about is maintaining your fitness during this pandemic. Alam natin na because of the pandemic, ang daming mga races na na-cancel, gyms na nag-close, and a lot of us are worried na mawala yung fitness natin that we accumulated over the last few years. So we invited the coach. We invited Saul Sibayan. Yeah, he's the founder of Endurance Lab PH. Is also a UST faculty member and a master's in sports and science at the United States Sports Academy. He actually also trains a lot of our friends na triathletes. Marami yung makakilala na coach tong si Coach. So Coach, welcome and thank you for joining us for this episode.
Thank you, Jeff, for having me here. And of course, cheers to all your fans and followers of Pinoy Fitness.
Yun, so nakilala ko tong si Coach dati na we talked pinag-usapan tayo about running performance din eh. And I really like your approach in terms of coaching na very scientific and very number-based din talaga. I invited you today to be able to give us some insights, no? Parang kasi as an athlete, we're afraid that because of the lack of races, the lack of events, that our performance are slowly declining. So humihina kami and come race day, baka sometime we're expecting maybe mid next year or even late next year pa saka tayo magkakaroon ulit ng events like running events or triathlon events. Parang how can we actually maintain our fitness during these times so that next year when racing season starts again, we don't need to start from scratch. Hindi ulit kami mga newbies. Ano yung insights mo doon, coach?
Ako, for one, in terms of running, always this is the best time to test out new things. Kasi hindi masisira yung season mo. Right? Hindi yung tipong before you're focusing on distance, so puro long runs, but we're lacking the speed. So ngayon, majority of my clients, what I do with them, my students, I focus them on the shorter distances, right? And then we, for example, have a better 10K or have a better 5K. And then because that speed can be translated later on. Okay? And because I'm not a fan ng mga fatiguing workouts during these challenging times, and and further suppress your immune system other than having the dreaded disease that we have now. Um, Also, ayaw natin magkaroon ng other illnesses that will require us to get, alam mo yun, be hospitalized and have that naman, COVID naman. So I try my best not to give them too much fatiguing workouts. Honestly speaking, the only thing that I tweak mainly with clients is the long hard workouts weekends. It's usually for running 2 hours max, and for cycling around 3 hours if ever gonna go indoors.
So,
The weekdays is gonna be like usually 45 to 1 hours. Ganun lang.
kasi before the pandemic, a chunk of the runners, I mean, the community of Pinoy Fitness, the normal races, the normal runs that we join every weekend is 21K. Parang yun yung sanay kami. And because of this situation, a lot of us actually parang almost, some of us, may iba talaga zero. Totally, wala nang run. And then ako, personally, I can only maintain like up to mga 10K now. Right? And then siguro some are more fortunate, they can still run longer distances. Now, for the people like me na small area lang yung nakatatakbuhan ko, or I can only really, kasi meron lang ako dito sa labas ng village namin, a 1 kilometer route eh. So, what's your advice for me so that, let's say, later on, if I want to run a half marathon, I want to run a full marathon, hindi ako masyado mahihirapan?
First is kung if you're looking at performance also, you can focus on having better form. Okay, so the drills, yung 1 kilometer na yon, you can do running drills, skipping drills, right? Single leg, heel to butt, okay, or knee drive drills, and that will help you enhance your form. Kailangan ng ganun kalaking stretch. Okay, usually like
Okay.
the drill coach in terms of endurance lab is really Coach Mo. He really likes to do drills and hone someone's form. And then we're ready to load. That's where I come in. So that's where our
Okay.
really works well. So in terms of OCR, currently Coach Moy is the national OCR running proficiency coach. So if you in terms of proficiency, wood form, he's the go-to.
So what you're
But
saying is, mag-focus muna ako sa basics ulit. It's okay if I can't run a 21K. Kumbaga,
yes,
right? So but you're telling me na it's a good opportunity now to be able to go back to the drills and recheck my form, parang ganyan.
and honestly,
Yeah.
this is the best time. I always put this even before pre-COVID. I always advocate quality versus quantity. Okay, I go with always any time of the day. I go with quality first because the quality mainly like intensity, it gives you speed. Okay, and because papagod ka pa rin, you also get a couple of fitness. Now, in terms of endurance, so to speak, no, that fitness in terms of fitness, in terms of endurance, is mainly coming from the standpoint of long workouts, no. Eventually, when everything is okay, mas madadalian ka namang bring up the mileage ulit. Like as compared to just focusing nawawala, endurance kumawala. If you can run 1 hour right now, that's actually fair. But the next question is, ano na yung pace mo? Is it the same pace as you're running like 3 months ago? Or mas mabilis ka na ngayon? Because if you're faster now, then definitely there's what we call as functional threshold pace. Right? The pace that you can maintain without fatiguing for a long period of time. So if you can hold that pace, okay, or make that pace faster, and you can hold that faster pace longer, then that's a good gain during these difficult times na limited din yung space mo to train or limited yung time mo to train.
Okay, so dalawa na yung narinig ko. One would be refocus on form. And you're telling me now na parang rather than distance, it's also a good time now to be able to focus on maybe speed. Speed work, kumbaga. Focus on speed work na lang muna on these times. Okay, so that's two. Meron ka pa bang mga ibang advice for us to be able to do so that we can prepare ourselves for race day come next year besides drills and speed works?
Okay, so ako in terms of, well, touching back to speed work, no? 1 kilometer is a good distance, honestly, to do VO2 max work. I like working at VO2 max. Okay, I know during the workout I hate it, but in prescribing it wise and of course me doing it, alam kong kailangan ko siyang gawin because the benefits are not like hindi mo siya makukuha agad. Okay? And then you feel the effects like after 2 months, 3 months, load. Hindi naman kailangan araw-araw. Like 2 times a week is fair. Iso lang. Okay? We call it roof builders. Okay? You think about the roof or the house or fitness, and then if you're increasing that roof, okay, lahat ng nasa baba nung bubong becomes easy. Okay? So other than the roof, okay, there's that ceiling, okay, yung kisame na pwede mong iangat. Habang tumataas yung bubong mo, tumataas din yung
Yun yung
so
VO2 max, coach?
VO2 max.
Yes.
So for those who are not familiar with
Yun,
the
tatanong ko nga sa iyo eh. So parang with ako meron akong Garmin. So my Garmin tells me more or less what my VO2 max is. Pero let's say for example, for those who doesn't actually have the devices that estimates VO2 max, can you have like an idea of what VO2 max is, and is there a way to like somehow estimate it without any type of gadgets?
Okay, so in terms of VO2 max, pinakamaganda dyan is looking at your 3K. Okay? Because the shorter the distance in terms of yung running natin sa labas, outdoor, 3K yung pinakamalapit sa VO2 max intensity. So if for example your 3K is improving, then there's also a chance or a possibility that your VO2 max is also improving. Or we call it your pace at VO2 max. So that's one. And then two is looking at your 5K. Okay? It's a mixture of your VO2 max and your threshold pace.
So does it mean yung 3K is may I go all out for 3K and then use that as a measure?
Usually, yes. Usually, it's a all-out 3K. But
Okay.
during workouts, hindi mo gagawin yung all-out na 3K kasi di ka na makakasunod ng same intensity at sa second set mo na second 3K umulit. So we chunk it down into smaller pieces. Okay, like usually mga 3 minutes at VO2 max or 5 minutes at VO2 max, around roughly 1 kilometer to 1.5.
So what you're saying lang in the 3K is I can use that as a reference. If my 3K is if my max time for a 3K is getting faster, it normally means that my maximum VO2 max might be improving. Okay, but I know Endurance Lab meron kayong ganung service, 'di ba? To be able to actually quantify VO2 max.
So yes, we have a gas analyzer or a metabolic cart. Okay, we're based in PACE, okay, in BGC. And we test cycling and running. Okay, and then they have the best treadmill. Okay, it's a Woodway. And same nung tinest si Kipchoge for the Breaking 2 project and for Ineos 159, it's the same treadmill. Okay, and it's one of the best out there. So we get your stage. Malaking bagay yung test for us to really quantify your real VO2 max. Okay, and then look at what pace you're at that intensity. Okay, and then also look at the other parameters like we discussed, like functional threshold pace or your threshold pace, and ano yung heart rate zones mo. So we can really dial it and make it more personalized.
Ano yung pinakamagandang VO2 max na nakita mo? Not necessarily, let's not name the person, no? Parang, ano ba yung highest VO2 max na nakita mo and what's an average VO2 max?
All na athletes dyan namin. One of the highest was at around close to 70, cyclist 70.
70 ang VO2 max.
Ano to, age grouper to. Age grouper.
Okay, so talagang malakas siya. Aha.
Tapos nun, one of our pro cyclists na na-test namin prior to the national championships like last year, he was like around 80. Parang
80.
world class talaga siya.
Yung average, let's say, someone na, let's say, or a typical seasoned runner.
Usually at around 40s to 50s. Okay, that's average age grouper kasi that's your average collegiate guy, diba? So if
Okay.
you're getting older, okay, kaya sinasabi natin matanda na ako, hindi na ako katulad nung before because your fitness also, your adaptations also go down. So for around roughly our clientele is around late 30s to middle 40s, 50s, no? If your fitness level is like someone of an average collegiate guy, then you're actually fit for your age group. And that's one of our goals kasi karamihan ng clientele namin are those people that have limited time to train but still want to perform, right? Or chase PRs. And so the numbers are important for us to really see that this person is improving. If not, then what are the areas that we can improve on para makakita kami ng improvement?
Kasi parang ako nasa 49 yung current VO2 max ko. Nafe-feel ko naman na dahan-dahan na yung shorter distances ko, I'm slowly speeding up in my pace as well. So ngayon actually nakakatuwa kasi I focus on shorter distances now but getting faster nga rather than thinking my next 21K or my next 42K. What else can we actually share?
This is also the best time to fix their bodies. Okay, so if you have lacking like injuries in the past, like ITP syndrome or sprained ankles, okay, or knee pain, okay, this is the best time to fix those issues. Okay, kasi wala na, malayo yung races eh. So parang reboot the system. Okay, so strengthen your core. Okay, and there we have a lot of strength coaches out there. Okay, have a one-on-one session with them virtually. Malaking bagay yon. Okay, honestly ako hindi ko in-expect na magiging ganito yung situation, no? So prior to me leaving the Philippines for Qatar, I invested on a suspension trainer and a couple of resistance bands. And then pagdating ko dito,
Okay.
napasada 2 weeks lockdown na. But during those times, at least meron akong nagagamit sa bahay, minimal equipment. Okay, so body weight is very much important still now. We call it overuse injuries, especially
Mm.
running endurance sports is a repetitive motion. Diba? Paulit-ulit, same motion ka, same motion ka. So like for example, us runners, it's a linear sport, diretso lang. So more or less one thing we found with runners and for example triathletes Okay sila kapag any drill, like for example, pabigay akong ladder drill, coordination drills, forward, wala silang problema. But once I give them lateral movements, parang awkward na for them. And dun tayo na-injure. Pero the point, of course, we're training specificity, right? For example, improving your 10K run is linear, right? Pero, for example, all of a sudden, meron kang hurdle, like sidewalk, okay, may tumawid dyan or something na kailangan mong iwasan. You do a sidestep sometimes, di ba? And that's the time we get injured kasi unstable tayo sa ganung movement. So this is also the best time to have those na hindi natin masyado na iisip way back then because we're focused so much on the task at hand, which is specificity.
Yeah, that's true. Ako din, over the last 10 years na tumatakbo ako, parang ito na yata yung longest break ko. Parang 6 months without going beyond 10K. Mas nawala din yung mga sakit ng katawan. It's like forced recovery for me. And yeah, so medyo kulang lang ako sa strength and conditioning siguro. Kasi all I have now is like nagpakabit ako ng isang pull-up bar and body weight exercises lang din talaga. So we're talking about going back to basic drills. We're talking about maybe just focus on speed rather than distance. Conditioning exercises if you have, yeah, it's the best time to to include strength and conditioning exercises and recover if you need to.
Ako, lastly, this is also the best time na to double check your, pag-usapan mo recovery, your nutrition. Ang concern ko dito, it's more of marami na kasing nakikita ko nagpo-post na they have fell in love again with cooking or baking, di ba? You can use those newly acquired skills in the kitchen and create your own, okay, nutrition bars na you can, for example, biglang magkaayaan, may nakikita ko nakakapag-trail run na sila or run outdoors, at least, di ba? You know that that nutrition product is, alam mo kung ano yung laman nun. The downside usually ng mga ganun is sometimes the packaging is harder to open or mabilis silang mapanis, no? As compared to the commercially available products na easy to open kasi they were designed, yung packaging nun, nila na kaya mong buksan yung kahit isang kamay lang. So there are products out there na ganun. But of course, this is also the time to check na after nung runs ko before, nakakakain ba ako after? Meron ba akong protein shake available right after? Okay, am I getting, for example, am I elevating my feet from time to time? Diba? So those things. And then honestly ako, even here, I brought with me my foam roller. Okay, once a week is actually still a good thing to add. Okay, and especially curbing those aches and pains. And
Okay.
mas maganda yung mobility mo pa actually if you do that regularly.
It's important for us to go back and really do the basics or relearn the basics. Parang, but do you have, let's say, a list lang, as a simple list, ano ba yung kailangan nilang i-take note of when it comes to running? Ano ba yung some of the basic form that they need to pay attention now that they have the time, di ba? Rather than the drills, ano ba yung kailangan nilang i-relearn?
So ako usually number one is feel. If you're, for example, conscious with your pace, like you can maintain 5 minutes per kilometer, try to think about ano yung sensations that associated with this pace. At 5 minutes per kilometer, parang hingal kabayo na ako before, pero ngayon much better na. Okay? You can check, hone that, use your Garmin or use your smartwatch to tawag nito, reanalyze, okay, and feel na ito yung sensations ko. Because there will be times na nakalimutan mo i-charge yung Garmin, right? Or biglang all of a sudden, the middle of your run, nawala yung data screen, nag-restart yung watch. It happens. Okay? And then, hindi naman pwedeng di mo tapusin yun. So, at least you have that sensation. And it's always important kasi hindi mata robot eh. We feel and those emotions are associated also to performance. Okay? Next is, nabanggit nyo rin, Jeff, yung cadence. No? The importance of cadence. We recommend around 180 steps per minute. Okay? So around 90 on each leg. That's the cadence on revolutions per minute. On the bike naman, kung equivalent niya. So, you can use your metronome. Okay? Kung wala kang metronome, you can download an app. If you run with your phone, and then open nyo lang yun and then set at 180. One of the things I saw with the cadence side, okay, kapag for example, before parang coach masyadong mataas yung 180, mas hinihingal ako. Yeah, but when you look at your form, okay, mag-auto-correct kasi siya. Once the cadence goes low, makikita mo yung iba are really heel striking, extended yung knee nila, di ba? And that's where we see the problems associated to running. I'm not saying that heel striking is wrong. I see a lot of runners also heel striking. Okay? But mas mataas lang kasi yung compressive forces and mas mataas yung chances of injuries with that form. Okay? We've seen a lot of fast runners also are heel strikers, but for sure when they're pushing at a higher intensity, they don't heel strike.
Yes, I also see a lot of heel strikers kasi. But ang question is, if I'm already a heel striker, sometimes kasi parang nakikita ko it's a natural form of other runners already. Parang, is it something that I need to force to change or just be aware that I'm a heel striker? Ano ba yung sinasabi mo sa mga estudyante mo?
Honestly, I'm also a heel striker at lower intensities. What I always do is try to really land midfoot. Okay? The downside of landing midfoot lang, mas masakit siya sa calf kapag di ka sanay. So you do it slowly, like in partial. Okay, I feel that my calf's recovered, then I can be conscious in pushing more, okay? And then landing on my midfoot. Okay, not the forefoot, midfoot. And then to minimize that heel strike. Kasi the heel strike is really a breaking force. Okay? Papabagalin ka niya eh. But yun nga, mas hindi siya ganun ka-demanding sa calf. Okay? So, once you feel na medyo nasusunog na yung calf ko, you can change that form ulit. And alam mo, it gets mind of things na masyadong data-driven. So, focus on that form. In terms for me, going back to cadence, you can start muna kung masyadong mataas ang 180, you can start at have a goal of 160, maybe couple of like 2 weeks, angat mo siya to 165, 170, 175, tapos eventually kaya mo na mag 180. Okay?
Over my years of running, I also noticed that cadence is regardless of speed. If I run slow or I run fast, the cadence remains the same. Some people actually think na kasi pag bumibilis sila tsaka tumataas yung cadence eh. But based on my experience, even if I run slow, even if I run fast, the cadence remains the same. Parang ganon. So just add an added note to that cadence training part of that.
Kasi that's good. The formula kasi for getting running speed is 2. Okay? So your running cadence and your stride rate. Okay? So stride rate pala is running cadence and of course stride length. Okay? So gaano kahaba yung matatravel ng paa mo per step. So of course, the harder you push off the ground, the longer your stride length will be. Okay, and of course, right now, power in running is very high. Okay, lalo na in indoors and it's readily available there in the Philippines also. It's a better pacing tool. Okay, than using pace. Alam ko ironic, no? But mas maganda kasi siya because that's your output, how much force you're producing, and also the speed that you're turning those legs. Okay? And that will equate to power output or watts. And now if you hold the certain watts, mas hindi ka mapapagod and you can sustain it. Ironic. So learning something like improving your pacing during short runs, malaking bagay din yun. Some people can pace them longer kasi parang you're respecting the distance. You pace it better. Pero pagdating sa shorter distances, parang yung iba, coach, susunog ako agad. So that's one of the things that we also look at into now. Okay, pacing is a skill. Skill din kasi siya. Other than of course being patient.
The second thing you mentioned kanina is about speed, trying to improve VO2 max, diba? You don't and then you recommended like kahit na yung mga 1 kilometer na road lang, it's actually a good place for you to be able to improve your VO2 max. Now, ano naman yung mga basic drills or basic workouts na pwede nilang gawin to be able to improve that their speed naman?
Ako kasi my workouts, I really make it based on time. Okay? I know some clients, students ko na parang, coach, mas mentally tough for me kasi nasanay sila sa distance. Okay? But in terms of improving energy systems kasi the body is based on time. Kaya ganun ako sa firm belief ko in terms of having your workouts based on time. And with that said, okay, usually the higher the intensity, like at VO2 max or slightly above VO2 max, the shorter the time or the shorter the distances. Okay, and then of course, I always, because not everyone are into the data driven side of training, no, always use by feel. Okay, for example, VO2 max then definitely should be at around 9/10 effort. Okay, for like 3 minutes to 5 minutes long. Okay? Tapos nun, I'm gonna train at threshold. Okay? I'm gonna go at around roughly 6 or 7/10 intensity and then holding it for like 10 to 15 minutes. And then do it like 3, 4, or even 5 times, especially for VO2 max, mga around 4 to 6 yun. Okay? For threshold, around 3 to 4 sets. And of course, important dyan is your recovery. Because your recovery is too short in between those sets, hindi ka makaka-recover well and pababa yung pace mo. Okay? Your intensity sa susunod na sets mo. So, usually ako with VO2 max, 1:1, okay? Or even a 1:1.5 or close to 2 na work. So, if I'm gonna place an athlete, for example, 4 sets of 3 minutes at VO2 max, ang pahinga niya either 3 minutes long or 4.5 minutes long. So, ganun yung parang ginagawa ko with clients. Okay? And then, marami pang iba, like for example, tempo runs, yung hindi siya ganong pang LSD, yung alam mo yung long, slow distance. Ako, ang term ko na nga sa LSD is long, steady duration. LSD is duration, so I go with only zone 2, slightly couple of zone 3s within that run, but 2 hours long. Okay, yun yung pang for example, 21K runs natin. And when you look at ganun na nangyari, 2 hours, ang tagal naman, coach. Pero pag nakita mo yung distance mo, kulang na lang. Parang nakaka-18K ka na, malapit ka na mag-21. And you're doing an easy run, di ba?
Zone 2.
Zone 2.
Oh.
And then,
Okay.
again, ang isang pinaka, for example, during these times na ayaw natin na masyadong mahaba, fatiguing workouts, no? May go-to zone for endurance, building endurance is tempo. So, kung may zone
Okay.
2 na endurance, meron kang threshold na zone 4, the one in the middle. Parang hindi ganun kahirap, hindi ganun kadali. Okay? Usually yan, mga good for 1 hour. Ako, nagbibigay ako dyan as long as like around 3/15, okay? Or even at 2/20 na tempo. Okay? Sustainability. The downside of training at that zone is, for example, if you really want to go with speed, sometimes it's fatiguing na hindi during, after tsaka mo mararamdaman, hindi ka maka-recover tomorrow, hindi ka maka-load ng speed. Like for example, tomorrow VO2 max ang gusto mong gawin. Okay, so sometimes if you're gonna go with VO2 max, may iba't ibang approach kasi siya, Jeff. No? So threshold based, for example, you focus on tempo and threshold, yun madali. And then we can go as much as polarized na VO2 max yung more intensity, tapos when wala ka in the middle ng threshold, meron ka sa baba, which is zone 2. So extremes yung polarized naman. Because you can now, you lack the intensity sa middle ground, so you recover at zone 2. Okay? Pwedeng muscular, masakit, but cardiovascular, naka-recover ka internally. But sa VO2 max, you have that intensity na reserve.
Just in case they wanna get in touch with you and really understand how all of this work, paano nga ba nila, how can they get in touch with you?
Okay, they can follow me on Instagram at Saul Sibayan, or also follow our Endurance Lab PH at Endurance Lab PH and Instagram. Okay, and then of course you can message me on Facebook, okay, Saul Sibayan, or message us sa Endurance Lab Facebook page. Okay, pretty much kaming dalawa naman ni Coach may sasagot sa inyo. To touch bases with you in terms of pace, no? For those listeners na hindi familiar, ano ba yung threshold? Okay, something that you can relate to. It's if you can run, like alam ko sa Pinoy Fitness meron kang sub 1 hour 10K.
Yes.
Right? That's actually, I really like running 10Ks because it's a good test for me in terms of knowing my threshold. So what's your average pace for that 10K? That's your threshold. So yung threshold pace mo 10. But of course,
Okay,
so slightly over 1 hour, okay? Kung ano yung 1 hour pace mo na pinakamabilis. That's your 45 minutes to 1 hour. That's your threshold pace.
During this time, actually, it's actually a good time to be able to improve on your 10K. So we might have another session. It's gonna be a good topic. How can you actually run at a sub 1 10K? Ano ba yung mga kailangan natin gawin? Maybe that's another episode later on. going into detail and really breaking down some of the tips and siguro drills that they can do to really target a 10K 1 hour. So we might actually see races coming back maybe mid or late next year. So until then, ano yung final advice mo sa mga listeners and viewers natin who's into running or triathlon?
Ako, this is the time to work on your weaknesses. Okay? So, again, kung weakness mo is proper nutrition, that's that now. Kasi malaki yung effect niya holistically, mentally also. Kapag dumating na yung races, isipin mo pa lahat. But if it's tweaked now, okay, parang ingrained in your daily routine, mas madali siya. Okay? The other is, of course, yung injuries. Okay? Manage those now. And then, in terms of, lalo na ngayon, focus on quality. Okay? Quality is very much important and matatransfer mo siya kapag when the real races come in, you have that quality thinking na kailangan proper rested ako para I can push well tomorrow.
Okay, so that's it. Some of us might actually see that it's a negative thing that we don't have races, that we don't have events. But maybe if we look at it in a perspective wherein it could be a good situation or a good time for us to be able to retrain, relearn, recover, strengthen ourselves for the next season, then it might be something na would be better for us, di ba? Parang pag yun yung mindset na isipin natin, then we can always take advantage of this situation to improve ourselves for next year kung bumalik na yung mga races natin.
To add on to that, no, if for example na napahinto kayo during these difficult times tapos ano nga, after listening to this gusto mong bumalik, give yourself some time. Okay, be patient with yourself. Okay, hindi ganun kabilis kadaling bumalik. Okay, so give it a couple of weeks until nga no, mas nakaka-recover na ako, I feel better, then that's the time to push.
So once again, thank you, Coach. Let's have another session for that sub 1. I hope you guys, I hope you guys learned something from Coach. And again, if you have any questions, you can always send Coach a message or Endurance Lab. So thank you guys for joining us for this episode. I hope you guys learned something about how to change your fitness mindset in this pandemic rather than the lost opportunity for races. Let's treat this as an opportunity for us to relearn, retrain, and recover ourselves until for the next season. So I hope you guys like this video. If you haven't liked us, please do give us a like and follow us. And I'll see all of you guys again on the next video. Thank you.